What's up, people? I'm Patrick Schiess, and today I'm going to show you how you can accelerate your healthcare app development and connect to multiple EHRs using MeldRx. Let's hop in. We're going to start by looking at a couple of examples, and then we're going to do a live demo. I've got pictured here a pretty common scenario that we see. An app developer is building an app, and they need to test it and connect it to some kind of data, usually a sampler mock data set. Once they've determined that the app is working as designed, then comes the big challenge of deploying and scaling the app to healthcare organizations, which may or may not leverage the same EHR platform like Epic or Cerner. Traditionally, building out and supporting connections to multiple EHRs was a pain for development teams to maintain, but not anymore because MeldRx and our MeldRx workspace makes it super easy. MeldRx workspace is a secure vault that runs on our platform, MeldRx, and it's designed to do things like manage the storage of and transfer all types of healthcare data. It simplifies user access and permissions management, and by doing so, it creates a clear compliance boundary between different organizations. Every workspace has a unique URL for API access, including FHIR APIs. We'll dig deeper into everything a workspace can do in later videos, but for today, we're just going to focus on how easily a MeldRx workspace can be linked to multiple EHRs. When we talk about linking to EHRs, what we're doing is abstracting the specifics of configuration away from what your app needs to know to interact with healthcare data. It doesn't matter if you're building an app for Epic, Cerner, Athena, Veradigm, NextGen, or really any FHIR API that's available. Your apps only need to integrate with the MeldRx Workspace's API once, and we'll take care of the rest. Let's go back to our original example. MeldRx allows you to spin up a cloud-based sandbox in minutes. You go to app.meldrx.com, you sign up, you make it happen really quick. Once you've done that, you'll need to register your app on our platform. This is essentially a blueprint for how your app will communicate to your workspaces and the EHRs that we're going to be linking to. Once your app is registered and your EHR connectivity is defined, you can start creating the workspaces for the individual organizations that you're going to deploy your app to. I want to point out again, your app will be able to seamlessly connect to each of these organizations' workspaces, regardless of which EHR it uses, with no special code changes required. If this seems complex, don't worry, we're about to do a live demo that's going to walk through how this works for a standalone sandbox, Epic and Cerner. Let's do it. If you want to follow along, head over to app.meldrx.com and either register for a new account or sign into your existing account. Once you're either registered or signed in, go ahead and click on the Register App button. Remember, when we talk about registering an app, that's essentially defining how our app will communicate to our workspaces and to the EHRs that it's going to connect to. I'm going to give my app a name. My users are providers, not patients, so I'm going to select that. We're going to be authenticating in a web browser, so I'm going to select public client. And then for scopes, I'm going to select profile, OpenID, FHIR user, launch patient, patient star.star, and user star.read. For the redirect URI, we have a sample application that I'm going to connect to, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Click next step. We're going to skip over this step for now because I want to show you the process for connecting to a standalone workspace that does not connect to an EHR first. But then we're going to come back and we're going to add EHRs so that we can connect to Epic and Cerner. I am going to go ahead and create a workspace. It allows me to create a standalone workspace, which is essentially a fully FHIR compliant, out-of-the-box FHIR repository that lets you get started with basically no friction. I'm going to call it Standalone Workspace. Now that my app's been registered and my workspace has been created, if you wanted to, you could follow the instructions at the bottom to actually get code samples for applications that you could start building. But in our particular case, we built this for the Smart on FHIR tester tool, and we're going to take a look at that right now. Smart.meldrx.com is our Smart on FHIR testing tool. You can get started by clicking Connect. If you're not logged in, it's going to send you over to a login screen, but since I am already logged in, it's going to take me to this screen. I can see the workspace that I created, the standalone workspace. I can see my app. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add the patient star.star scope so that I can connect to my workspace and load in some sample data. I'm going to click connect. Once I'm connected, it's actually going to load in a sample application that we've built called EHR Plus. EHR Plus is basically a miniature EHR, but it does a lot of other really cool things for testing the capabilities of MeldRx. We'll get into that later. For now, I'm going to click on this API Explorer and create, and then upload test patient data. It's going to upload a FHIR bundle, which is actually used for Inferno testing. So if you're familiar with that process, you might see some things that look familiar. And I'm going to navigate back to EHR Plus, click on search. I can see now I have 2 patients in my workspace. I click on James Smith, and I can see all of James Smith's information, which is really cool. That's how easy it is for standalone workspaces. So that's workspaces that are not tied or linked to EHRs in any way. But what we want to do now is we actually want to configure our app to talk to both Epic and Cerner. We're going to start with Epic. I'm going to go back to the MeldRx, app.meldrx.com/command center. I'm going to go back to apps. I'm going to click on my app. And if I scroll down, there's a section that says connect linked apps, EHR systems, add linked app. So this is that step that I skipped over earlier. Now we're going to do it and see what that looks like. If I click add linked app, and I want to start with Epic. Now it's going to ask me, do I want to provide my own credentials? So if I'm already registered with Epic and I have a client ID with them, I would go that route. For this demo, we're going to use the sandbox credentials for Epic so you can get up and running in no time. I'm going to give my linked app a name, Epic Sandbox, because that's what it is. I'm going to select some scopes that I know will work with this demo. And then I click add linked app. We're just going to start with the Epic one for now. We'll come back and add the Cerner one in a little bit. The next thing I want to do is I need to add a workspace. So we've got our standalone workspace, which has all of the test data that we loaded into it. But now we need a different workspace for our Epic data. I'm going to click create workspace. We're going to do a linked workspace. I'm going to call it, if you remember back from the earlier slides that we showed, the Epic organization was Good Health. Epic, I'm just going to put it there so we remember. I'm going to select that it's Epic, and since we've selected Epic, MeldRx knows that we have some sandboxes available to you that you can click on and get running with immediately. Let's click Create Workspace. Now that I've created my Epic workspace, I'm going to go back to the Smart on FHIR testing tool. I'm actually going to click on Connect again. And this time, instead of selecting standalone workspace, I'm going to connect to Good Health Epic. And I want to be sure to select the launch patient scope. And then I'm going to copy this launch URL and actually do it from an incognito window. Let me move it up here. Okay. So my app has generated a URL that allows me to log into the Epic Sandbox. We're going to log in with our Epic Sandbox credentials, which can be found on our MeldRx documentation. I'm going to click Login. EMC Family Medicine looks good. Hit Continue. And for patient, I'm going to find a patient that I know has lots of good data. I'm actually going to search for Jason here. And if I wanted to, I could select any of these other ones. But in my case, I know that this Jason Argonaut is a pretty solid patient. So it asked me, are you okay with allowing this application, this demo provider application to access that data? I'm going to say, yes, I'm cool with that. And then I get taken back to the EHR Plus application, which now has Jason Argonaut's data. Now, it's worth noting that before in our standalone workspace, we loaded that data in manually. we're actually looking at data that came live out of the Epic sandbox directly into our EHR Plus application. We didn't have to make any special accommodations or anything to make that happen because EHR Plus runs on MeldRx and a MeldRx workspace. We only had to integrate with the MeldRx workspace and no code changes were required for us to get Epic data. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to close this right now. I'm going to go back and we're going to add now a connection for Cerner. So I go back to my app. I scroll back down to the bottom. We're going to add another linked app. We're going to select Cerner. We're going to use those MeldRx sample credentials for the sandbox. We're going to call this Cerner sandbox. I'm going to select the scopes that I know are going to work. And then we're going to add the linked app. Now, we need to go create a workspace for this new linked app that we have for Cerner. So I'm going to create a new linked workspace. We're going to call it Carewell, which is a throwback to our slides from earlier. I'm going to select Cerner, choose that sandbox for provider, create the workspace, and we're ready to go. We're going to pop back over to the MeldRx Smart testing application, and I'm going to refresh it. Okay. And this time for the workspace, I'm going to select Carewell Cerner with my app. I'm going to make sure that launch patient is on there. I've already got user start.read, and let's see what happens. I'm going to copy this URL, open in private browsing, just to show this is a brand new clean context. And it's going to this time take me to the Cerner sandbox, which is awesome. I put in the credentials, which again can be found in our MeldRx documentation. It's worth noting now that between the two EHRs, we've actually seen two completely different workflows. Epic took me to a patient selector where I could search for a patient and select them and consent to it there. Cerner doesn't do that. Your app can be designed, just like our EHR Plus is here, to search for a patient. I'm going to do Nancy Smart, who is a patient that I know has good data. I'm going to click on Nancy Smart, and I'm able to pull that data directly out of Cerner. Now, notice how easy it was for me to connect to the Epic sandbox and the Cerner sandbox and use them almost interchangeably with this EHR Plus app without making additional code accommodations for it. If I wanted to go and add Athena or NextGen or something else, it would be really, really easy for me because I'm already integrated with the MeldRx Workspace API. That's all for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Also, everything we talked about today, the links are in the video description below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.